Okay, so I'm going to change this now. I'm going to go to styles on the right side. We're still in the same mapping platform we've been in for 2 days, Arcgis Online. And I'm just going to add fields. Look, these are the fields that I have at my fingertips. Let me add, how about cans? Okay, I'm going to add cans. And now it changes the symbols. Say, okay, Joseph, you want to map cans. I'm going to give you a graduated symbol map with the number giving the size, their correct size. So, okay, the cans is a big problem right here, right? If I click on that point, I had 18 cans there. This symbol is small because there's only 2 cans, okay, or parts of cans. So if I go to style options, that's kind of a big symbol. I don't really like that, and I really don't want it to be red, okay? I want it to be something else. I want it to be, I don't know, violet, okay? Violet, you're turning violet. Anyway, that's from Willy Wonka. But the point is, I also have the idea of, ooh, I don't like the size of those things either. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to scroll down here. Look, what if I did this? Now, and I've just got these little slider tools. Now, ooh, okay, I can see that this one is a little bit bigger, but it doesn't take up the whole map. So there's, in cartography, which is the science of map making, there are a few rules, but there aren't very many rules. The guiding principle is be clear in your communication. So that being said, you've got a lot of flexibility. Who says they have to be purple? Who says maybe we want a can symbol for aluminum cans? Maybe we don't want a circle at all. So there's lots of flexibility that you have at your fingertips. Let's just say done there. But now what if I wanted to add, I want to figure out the other kinds of litter there too. So I'm going to add every single one of these, paper, plastic, etc. Now it's going to say, okay, you want to map them all. I can't map them all and have it be clear unless I give you what's called a predominant category. So now we see 2 things. The predominant category at each one. What litter was found most often? Now we can see, oh, over here, northwest of Petco Park it looks like paper waste was the highest. And then right over here is maybe glass bottles. But it's hard for me to see because the symbols are a little bit too small. So I'm going to bump up the symbol size. But before I do, notice the second piece of information we get is the strength of predominance. How much did glass dominate at that intersection? Was it 50% of all the litter that Joseph found? Was it 75%? So the darkness of the symbol is going to indicate the strength of that particular kind of litter. Okay, well, how do we change that? Let's go ahead and make style options now, and I'm going to click on this little pencil, and now I'm going to say, yeah, okay, I can change the colors if I don't want those colors, but let's just keep it simple, and let's bump up the size of these things. Okay, I'm kind of liking that. Yeah, okay, so now I've got a bigger symbol, and now I can more clearly see that, okay, paper's an issue here, predominant category once again, and cans, as we talked about, northwest of Petco Park. Is that where the San Diego Padres play? I'm doing too much mapping and not enough sports these days, so I really don't know. Is that still a thing? Are they still a team?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So they must play there in San Diego. Okay, anyway, This is just northwest of the field. Okay, great. So now, what if I wanted to do something in addition to that? Let's keep digging deeper. Let's go to charts and size. Now I've got a pie chart at every one of these. And now I can see pretty clearly, the fast food wrappers, look at these cans over here. This one is heavy on fast food wrappers, even more than I realized before. 29 fast food wrappers there, and there was a total of, I don't know, I'd have to sum these up. But the point is, look, I've got this. So roughly, 50 or so pieces of, so the size of the pie chart is the number of pieces found, and then you've got this, the wedges are the type of litter, right? Let's do just one more thing, and that is if we go to style options again, and let's say, what do we have? Look at this. Pie versus donut. It's making me hungry here. But look, as I slide it over to donut, it's giving me now a ring or a donut around each point instead of a pie chart. So again, thinking about, is there a rule? Do I have to make a pie chart or do I have to make a donut? You can do whatever you want to make it clear as possible. The idea, one of the mantras of mapping is to just be clear to your audience and not mislead intentionally. Maps are representations of reality, right, folks, as we talked about numerous times. And the goal in mapping is to help people understand whatever the situation is, whatever where you're mapping, and then also inspire them to maybe take action about, do we need a community awareness campaign? Do we need recycling bins? Do we need more trash cans? Do we need to maybe think about, I don't know, some other water stations? I don't know what it is, but maybe a combination of some things. So inspiring people to maybe take action. So now with a couple of clicks, and probably even shorter time than if I hadn't been talking so much, right? You could do this. We could say, okay, we're going to adjust the symbology so that we can clearly see what the situation is. And this leads to additional questions, which is the whole idea of scientific inquiry. What if Joseph had surveyed over to the east of the stadium? Or what about north of the study area? Or maybe across the street to this convention center over here? What would the situation be like over there? And what about, how long did he collect the data? Was it 1 day? Was it 1 hour? What time of year? What day of the week? And additional questions. Would it be different on a Sunday versus a Friday? This is ArcGIS Online, and within a few moments, we had some additional information that we could gain based on how we symbolize the map. So touching on what I was talking about before, all of these things thus far in the course, you could do without signing into anything online. But now you're probably saying, well, Joseph, I want to do that too, but I want to save that map. Or I want to create a story map and save that. This is where on the left side here is something that, let me move the zoom tools around. There's the save button. Don't ask me why the save button in many software packages is a diskette. Do you folks even know what a diskette is? Have you ever seen one in the past?
Yes.
We'll show someone who's under 20, right? Hey, what's this? If you even have one in your house still. I have a few just for demonstration purposes. This is what we had to use. It's a diskette. Okay, for the save symbol in lots of different software, including our own. But anyway, if you were to sign in to ArcGIS Online, that would be highlighted. You'd be able to actually save the map, and then tomorrow you'd be able to pick up where you left off. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have to start from scratch every time. And you could create and save maps like this, story maps, and then share them with friends, loved ones, etc., with the same platform. How would you do that? How would you actually sign in and get an account? There's two ways. First of all, if I go to developers.arcgis.com, and don't get dismayed by, hey, Joseph, I don't even know what these terms mean. I'm not a developer. I'm not a coder. The point that I'm bringing up is if you go to the developer site, you can actually click on this, start building this for free. And this is a ArcGIS Online account. You don't have to be a coder, but it lets you save things like that map we were just looking at, or a story map, a multimedia web map, or maybe we're looking at the Wayback Imagery. What if you zoomed into your own location or place of interest and you wanted to save that exact map that you had? You can't unless you actually create an account, free account like this. Just like in Google Drive, right? You have to have, or Dropbox, or any other web-based tool, right? You have to have a place to store stuff. And to get a place to store stuff, you have to have an account. That's all. The nice thing about my organization is that we're not a Google. We could care less about the coffee shop down the street from your house, or a cool deal, at Home Depot, or you know what I mean? We're not going to send you any ads or anything like that. We're just mapping geeks. So this is just a place for you to store your stuff. Another place to do it is if you go to storymaps.com. Storymaps.com is another way for you to get an account. In this case, it's actually $100. Okay, so for $100, you could get full capabilities of telling stories with maps. Something to think about. I would start with all the online tools that we talked about in this course, and then if you truly want to save stuff, get a free account, and if you want to go more, then maybe think about this. I don't know what I paid last time for Microsoft Office 365, but it was more than $100. I think it was $230 or something like that for my home office. Fairly doable. But I would start with, I would start with all the links that we had in here, and then if you want to save, get the free account. If you truly want to do more, then go here. But those are a couple ways that you can actually save stuff. And let me show you an example of one of my story maps besides the age of the Anthropocene. But maybe before I do, realize that first of all, if you want to get an example of what is out there, I would go to storymaps.com. www.arcgis.com. Okay, and there is under resources, there are collections in there. Okay, collections, and they're under this gallery tab. So gallery, we're not going to spend time as a group because I think this is something that you could totally do on your own, but just kind of scan around at these titles: living in the age of humans, all about population change, housing. Sounds of the Wild West. I love that because it's all sounds in story maps. Eagles and wind blowing through the trees, air quality. There's some things that are fun, but there's also things that are, tying into, hey, there are some issues on our planet that we want to solve through mapping. So there are some serious issues in here as well. But you can see here, this is page 1, and there are 12 pages of examples of on the Osprey. I mean, this is just, let's just look at that one. But so there's an example of a story map. Here it's story of an osprey. I think there's a map in here of where these amazing birds fly, their routes. Wow, look at that. That's kind of a cool map because it's kind of like the shading effect. Wow. Okay, Cedar Creek State Park. So it's just showing you the actual route of that particular bird. The bird probably had some sort of device, right, that we could track, those lightweight 1 or 2 ounce things on the leg of the bird or something like that the Audubon Society put on or something like that. Anyway, tracking this bird it's amazing that the flights of these things, I really like that kind of technique. Oh, wow, the Dominican Republic. Wow, that's fascinating. Okay, but anyway, yeah, maybe they're talking about banning it right here. Anyway, the point is, this is just a story about that one bird. But there are no shortage of, literally from architecture and anthropology to zoology, stories in this story maps collection. So I hope that's useful, and I invite you to dig into that. There's, again, lots of neat things that we could talk about, but in our closing moments here, we're kind of down toward the last part of the presentation, and I just wanted to kind of give a nudge to a classic early example, and some of you may have seen this in the past, of maps being used as analytical tools and not just reference documents. Like, hey, maps aren't just where is Colorado, where is Afghanistan, where is London. They're actually used for analysis. And it didn't just happen in the last 25 years. Some of you may recognize this. Does anybody recognize this map? You got the right country, though.
Shakespeare's where he grew up, Stafford on the...
You're still in the right country. Go to the biggest city in that country.
London?
Yes. Okay, so this is John Snow's 1854 map of cholera in London. Pretty grim topic, but the reason why I bring it up is, well, there's several reasons. A, it's one of the first well-known examples of a map being used for analysis. And so when John Snow went around with the Dr. Whitehead to these different locations in Soho where people were dying of cholera, still is a very serious disease. He wanted to see if his hypothesis was true, and that is, did people get cholera just from the air or from actually consuming tainted water, polluted water? And then, at the time, people didn't have faucets in their houses, as you know. They got it from these public water pumps. So what he did is he went around and marked on the map a little black mark where cholera cases were, and they were almost always fatal. So sadly, all these cases ended up being fatal, but showed that if they got their water from this Broad Street pump, they almost always got sick. So made the case, showed the map as evidence for the case, and the city did remove the pump. It's a story that you can read more about in a map or a book called Ghost Map, which is a very compelling book, one of my favorite books. So there's this early case, mid-1900s, of maps being used as analytical tools. Second thing, though, is that it shows that, maps can be used to save lives. So after that the handle was removed, people's lives were saved. And then the other thing that I think is interesting about this is that, coming back to what we talked about at the very first class, that we've got some serious problems in our world, right? Climate and natural hazards and of urbanization, water issues, and so on. This must have seemed pretty daunting once and it didn't happen right away. It was a gradual, oh, look, this is not good. And there's 2 million people in London, and we're polluting our own water. We've got to do something about it. And there's 2 million people in Paris, and there's 2 million people in New York City. And, it must have seemed like a daunting task, and I realized that, the Sustainable Development Goals being what they are, the water quality is still an issue for 1 billion people, right? It still hasn't been completely eradicated, getting sick from drinking water. So I realize it's not completely solved. But for many people, right, you don't have to worry that the next time you go to the kitchen faucet, you're going to get sick and maybe even die. So for a lot of people, that problem, a big daunting problem at the time, was actually grappled with and understood through mapping and through people banding together and making smart decisions. So that's an encouraging word that, some of these issues on our planet right now, they seem really complicated, and they are. We can do it. We've got smart people. We've got some good tools at our fingertips, as I hope I'm imparting in this workshop here. And these issues, we're going to get there. We've just got to, make smart decisions with good data and good people. And another thing that I wanted to point out about this is that if in this particular map, I've got the actual data, and now it's sitting inside ArcGIS Online. Now, this map that John Snow made, right, it was just a flat map on paper. It didn't have attributes, but I've put it inside our GIS so that now we can say, oh, well, now we can actually interact with this. And if I go to, let's go to this map, and I'm going to move my zoom tools around a little bit. And I'm going to go up here and then see this here where I'm going to say, oh, I've got some layers on the left side. So what I did with this particular lesson that I actually teach in secondary schools and universities is I say to the students, okay, here are the public water pumps. Okay, let's look at those. And then let's buffer the public water pumps. So first, here are the public water pumps. And then I'm going to buffer each one of those by 500 feet, thinking that's about as far as people will walk. And then you can see that then what I have them do is figure out how many of these cases were within X distance of the Broad Street pump. And then I'm going to have John Snow route around the city. And what's the walk time to the Broad Street pump for 2 minutes? I'm going to route to different addresses in the city, the nearest pumps to certain residences. So I've got the data actually in a mapping tool, ArcGIS Online, same one that we were looking at earlier. And so it becomes a lesson for modern times also. So I hope that's a word of encouragement that, we've got some problems. Maps, spatial analysis are going to help us get there, but also for you and I, just being interested in our world, we can actually understand our world a little bit better through all these mapping tools at our fingertips. So this is the final result where I have them map all of the public water pumps and the cholera cases, and then this blue line is, okay, now you're John Snow, and you've got to visit all the pumps, and you've got to measure water quality at each one of these pumps, and people are dying, so time's wasting, and you need to get routed around the neighborhood as fast as possible. What's your ideal route? So it's sort of a modern versus ancient, or maybe in tandem with 170 years ago, routing. And of course, we talk about with the students, is he going to use a car? No. How's he going to get around with his water quality equipment and so on? And then is it faster to walk around the city now versus then? So I showed them pictures of, 19th century cities, and they're very clogged and congested, as you know, horses and Oliver Twist and others roaming around the streets. So that is one example. Another example is this zebra mussels. I touched on this earlier. If you wanted to, let's say you were going to map all the zebra mussels. These are these creatures that are about yay big. And you can see that here's a distribution also. It's not cholera. It's actually a bigger area. It is, I've got it coded as light colored for 1986 to 1993, and then darker as it spreads out. So you can even see one in Pueblo Reservoir, 2008. Terrial Reservoir, etc. How do they migrate, right? They migrate in these cavities in boats, which is why there's those warnings. Do not leave this reservoir or this lake and with water in your boat somewhere. You got to dry it out before you get out of here. So, but you can see these things have spread from the initial point in Lake St. Clair, just by Detroit, into the Great Lakes, and then down these waterways. So again, an issue of our time, and we can understand that a little bit better with mapping tools. And of course, another thing I like about mapping tools is that, so many of these issues don't stop at state, national, international borders, right? It's a Canadian issue too, and it's actually this original thing came over from like the theory is over by the Caspian Sea, and on a ship that actually was bound for Lake Erie back in late 20th century. So okay, a serious issue, but let's understand it and map it and do something about it with mapping tools. And by the way, I spent some time, you saw my picture at Manitowoc, Wisconsin, a couple of places that I've actually been, and this, again, kind of bringing home, we have these personal connections to some of these issues. The beach that I walked on when I was a kid, I returned to a few years ago, and it was knee-high with zebra mussels. You could not walk on that beach anymore. They were really sharp. You could not walk on there barefoot. And of course, they displaced all the other species, and you can't even walk on the sand. There's no sand. It's just mountains of mussels. So it's a serious issue. How are we going to get there? I think mapping is, spatial analysis is one of the ways that we can get there. So that said, I just wanted to scroll down to, a couple of last words. One of the ways that we're going to get there is, and this is kind of a geeky map, I realize, but I've got a little red schoolhouse for every school that actually has these mapping tools at their fingertips. This is just K through 12. It's not the university. So even in Metro Denver, you can see there's a lot of schools. Now, since this is a public-facing map, we don't have individuals' names on there, right? We don't have the teachers' names or anything like that, understandably so. But you can see that, hey, we're working on it. We're getting the word out to schools that, hey, if you want to teach STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, geography, economics, these tools can help you teach in a more engaging way, help students solve problems. So that's one of the ways I think we're going to get to the point where more people are spatially literate and use these tools effectively, and it is with these K-12 schools. And then, of course, we also work with tribal colleges, community colleges, technical colleges, and universities, libraries, and museums. So that's the mission of my team, is to help people use these tools. And as you can see here, we're still scratching the surface. There are 110,000 K-12 schools. But if you know a teacher, if you know an educator of any kind, say, hey, I heard about these mapping tools in this Academy of Lifelong Learning course, and maybe it's something that you want to use in the school. Completely free for schools to use. And so we're gradually kind of turning the tide of raising awareness. The very last thing, even below that, I'm going to give you a little map quiz, okay? And that I think that'll help us close out in a fun way. Little quiz time. So this is built on the same tools that we've been using. And in each one of these, I'm going to ask you, where is this place? Okay, so you can see that I've got a little slide play button at the bottom of this particular web mapping tool. And so let's go ahead and start. Okay, now, these are all images with north at the top, okay? Now, is this Victoria Falls, Angel Falls, or Niagara Falls? So you're thinking spatially, you're thinking, what does the vegetation look like around some of these places? Let me zoom out a little bit. If I zoomed out a little bit, would that help? Interesting. You can see there's this river, and the falls cut across the river. Isn't that an interesting pattern, right? There's like this rift, and the falls cut across the river like that. And then downstream, you've got the river is a lot narrower. Interesting. What if I zoomed out some more? What if I zoomed out some more? Now where is it for sure? Keep going. Okay.
Victoria.
Yep, Victoria Falls. You
Yeah.
folks are good. Yep, exactly. Okay, let's do another one. Let's skip to urban rivers just for a different theme as we close out our final minutes. London, Paris, or Hamburg? You got a big river running through this city. Notice you've got these radial streets, which is a very big clue on this city. Urban rivers. Look at that. Look at those. Look at those bends. Exactly. Yep. So therefore it's
Paris.
Bonn. Yep. Exactly. Bonn. Okay. Let's do one more. I'm going to skip to this one. The Suez Canal, Erie Canal, or the Panama Canal?
Suez.
So you're looking around at these, you're seeing, okay, dry landscape. What do I know about the other two? And if I zoomed out a little more, you're going to see the Nile Delta. Yep, the Mediterranean, the Red Sea. Exactly. Do you think you people are thinking spatially, which is heartwarming, and I love it. But this is another one that's actually linked to your main presentation, and you might want to, go through some of these others. Maybe you have some people over, or in a virtual session, or have people over at the house and say, hey, let's get into the mapping quiz. Ooh, I've got a lot in there, not just the urban rivers and the canals, but you saw I have some glaciation. I've got a nice variety of rainforests, and it helps people think spatially because they think, well, what do I know about those places? And what about where north is and the vegetation and the landforms and all the cities nearby and all those things that you folks are thinking about. So I hope that was fun. I've got more tools in here than we've been able to cover, but I'm hoping that that was helpful. Let me just give you some piece of advice here in half a minute. Don't get too attached to the tools. Let's say you use one of these mapping tools and the zoom in tool is not where Joseph said the zoom in tool was. No big deal. It may move to a different part of the map, but you'll always have a map and you'll always have some tools to navigate around on and add data to, etc. So the tools will evolve. You don't just map things, but actually think about why things are where they are. And also, as I talked about several times, be critical of the data. Don't just accept a map because it's online. I've got plenty of examples of bad maps that we didn't really have time to get into. Maps that look good, but they don't have a good legend. The legend is indecipherable. It's in the wrong map projection, whatever. It's got Argentina where Colombia is supposed to be. There's all kinds of examples of those that I've got in the presentations as well. Ask questions about the world. Be curious. That'll lead you to exploration. Continue to be a lifelong learner, and this is the most important tool of all, right? Not the mapping tools, it's this tool, your brain, asking questions and being curious, as I know you folks are, and that's why I love working with you. Here's how to get a hold of me. Again, if I can be of any assistance, or if you want to just share, hey, Joseph, I found this map. That's what I'm here for, and I would love to keep in touch with all of you. I wish you all the best, and continue being spatial.
Thank you, Joseph. Thanks. This was
Big
great.
applause for you, Joseph.
No, you people are awesome. Thanks for having me be at least a little part of your lives today and last week. And thanks for being flexible on the time. I hope it wasn't too much of an inconvenience, but I really appreciate your attention here and the questions that you posed, and look forward to chatting with you in the future. And thanks, Marianne. You were awesome. You made it all possible.
Yay.
Oh, thank you,
Yay,
everyone.
Marianne.
Joseph, stay in touch, and everyone have a great afternoon, and we'll see you around. Thank you. Big
Thank you,
applause.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thanks, folks. Blessings. Peace. Take care.